My family used me as their wallet until I finally said no. I'm Nora Calder, 32, and tonight I'm parked under a flickering street lamp outside my apartment in Tempe. Watching my windshield glitter with a fine mist like the sky can't decide whether to rain or hold its breath. The engine hums. I can smell the summer heat rising from the asphalt. My hands rest on the steering wheel as if I'm waiting for a light that never turns green. It's been a year since the dinner that cracked my family open like a plate dropped on tile. Before that night, our family Sundays had a script. My mother, Lorna, rearranging napkins into perfect squares. My father, Hugh, narrating local news like a sportscaster. My nephews darting down the hallway. And my older sister, Marin, 4 years my senior and always there. Son, we were taught to orbit explaining why life happened to her while the rest of us nodded. I used to believe being a good daughter meant cushioning everyone else's fall. Then I learned that when you're always the cushion, the ground never feels the hit. It started when Marin's husband moved out quietly, with a note on the counter and a missing gap where his shoes used to be. 16 years together, and he left behind a coffee cup in the sink and 2 boys with wide eyes. That night my phone lit up until it was just a square of panic in my palm. I drove over without changing clothes, hair in a knot, sneakers scraping the driveway. The boys were bundled on the couch, small and sleepy, and Marin looked like a house after a storm still standing, but all the drawers open. I can't think, she kept saying. I can't breathe, so I did it for her. I made a list. Apartment viewings, school forms, grocery runs, lawyer referrals. I paid the deposit on a 2-bedroom near the boys' school and rushed signatures like a paramedic. When the fridge was empty, I filled it. When sneakers wore through, I replaced them. When the rent notice glared from the mailbox, I logged in and paid. It was supposed to be a bridge a month, or 2 while Marin found her footing. But weeks poured into seasons. A year later, the bridge had become a pier, and I was the only one standing on it, waving at a shoreline I couldn't reach. Job applications. I'd ask gently, even part-time? After the boys settle, she'd say, and somehow the boys never settled. My parents has doubled as a lighthouse and a courtroom. Family takes care of family, my mother would declare, stacking my sister's plates into a neat tower as if order could be willed into existence. My father would fold his arms. Your sister's been through enough. So had my credit card. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself love is a verb. I told myself a dozen things while I scheduled my life around crises, set alarms to pay bills that weren't mine, and ignored the brittle sound my voice made when I said, "It's fine." The week everything changed. I landed a project at work that had lived on my dream board for 2 years, a statewide conference that could make or break our quarter. For 3 months, I was a machine of forms and calls and checklists, waking before sunrise to juggle supplier quotes and venue holds and speakers with calendars like puzzles. The night before contracts were due, I fell asleep at my laptop with a spreadsheet imprinted on my cheek. We won. My boss slid a bonus letter across her desk. You earned this. I felt something inside me stand up straighter. I did something small and ridiculous. I traded my aging hatchback for a certified pre-owned coupe. Not flashy, just mine. I scrubbed the old car, put a bow on the hood, and planned to give it to Marin because generosity is my default setting even when the tank is blinking empty. Sunday dinner. Roasted chicken, my mother's rosemary potatoes, the boys arguing about who gets the last roll. I passed the keys across the table with a smile. She get you where you need to go. Marin didn't smile back. She stared at the bow as if it were a dare. You bought yourself a new car. It's used, I said softly, and dependable. The old one is yours if you want her. You expect me to be grateful for leftovers. Her voice went tight. You drive around in something nicer while I'm stuck, Marin, my father warned, but the room had already tilted. My mother set down the serving spoon. Maybe the priorities are reversed, she said. A brand new car while your sister is fighting to keep a roof over her head. It's not brand new, I tried, but the truth was already drowning in the story being told about me. A year of covering shortfalls burned through the back of my ribs, rent, utilities, field trip fees, new cleats, new coats, new phone lines my sister accidentally started and couldn't cancel, my bank app a confession booth. In that moment, I didn't feel generous. I felt invisible. I felt like an ATM no one bothered to thank. I put the keys back in my pocket. I can't keep doing this, I said to the table, to the years, to the idea that love equals self-erasure. I can't be the plan and the backup plan and the emergency fund and the excuse. Silence. The kind where even the air seems to step carefully. My father leaned back, disappointment folding his face into familiar lines. Family doesn't quit when it's hard. I'm not quitting, I said. I'm choosing not to drown. The words surprised me with their own clarity. That's when Mering shot the arrow. Selfish, she whispered, like a verdict. I hope the car makes you happy. I stood. The chair legs wheeled against tile. I hope something does, I said, and even I couldn't tell whether I meant her or me. I walked out to the driveway with the old Honda keys pressing crescents into my palm. I tossed them gently onto my sister's front seat anyway habit, hope. I don't know, and drove home with a feeling that was not relief, not yet. But the space relief might fill. Asterisk, when you stop propping up a wall, you expect a crash. Sometimes you get dust first. Days went by. My phone throbbed with messages I couldn't read. A new gale tried to move in, loud as a marching band. I turned down the volume with motion. I poured myself into the conference like it was oxygen. I slept 8 hours for the first time in months. I went to a sunrise yoga class and sobbed into my mat where nobody knew my name. I ate dinner with friends who reminded me I have a laugh that fills a room when I'm not holding it in. One afternoon, I ran into my older nephew, Jace, in the shoe store at the mall. He grew 2 inches since I last looked closely. He grinned and held up a box. Got a game Saturday. Will you come? Text me the time, I said, and meant it. At the game, he moved across the court like he was chasing a horizon he trusted would still be there. I sat next to my mother. She kept her hands folded, a habit she learned in church and never unlearned. Coffee? I asked afterward, surprising us both. We ended up in a corner booth at a diner that smelled like vanilla and bacon. The first minutes were slow, polite weather, the price of eggs, choreography around the words we weren't sure we could say. Then something softened. My mother's shoulders lowered. We made it too easy for her, she said at last, and too hard for you. Her voice was careful, like she was testing the weight of truth before setting it down. It's not about easy or hard, I said. It's about fair and sane, she nodded. Your father thinks love is measured in sacrifice. So do I admitted. I just finally realized it shouldn't only be mine. It wasn't an apology, but it was a door opening an inch. We planned a small dinner, my parents, the boys, and me. Marin declined. Not if she's there, she told my mother. Boundary met boundary and hissed. The dinner without her felt like eating in a house after the store windows repaired, but the paint still peeled. We talked logistics, the boys' schedules, the school play, the math homework that defeats entire nations. My parents agreed to remove me from their budget. No more gentle reminders about late notices. No more just until next month. I promised to show up for birthdays and report cards and the kind of Sunday afternoons that don't require a performance review. For months, that was our truce. I kept away from the center of my sister's gravity and let the silence get used to me. Here's what happens when you stop being the emergency fund. You remember your own emergency. Mine was simple and overdue, my life. It needed attention the way a plant needs sunlight. So I gave it what I could. I took long walks on streets I used to drive past. I let the desert evening bloom around me, the smell of creosote after a brief rain, the neon orange of the sky crashing into purple, the way the air cools suddenly like someone opened a secret door. I deleted the budgeting spreadsheet I kept for everyone else and built a new one with only my name on it. It looked strange and beautiful. Old friendships, neglected from triage duty, were coaxed back to life. I learned to say yes to tiny invitations, a movie on a Tuesday, tacos in a backyard, a thrift store run that turned into a philosophy debate on a curb. I learned to say no without a paragraph of apology at the end. I went on a handful of dates and discovered that being truly seen is not a favor paid back for good behavior. It's a choice someone makes or doesn't. That realization spilled into everything. Work calls, family calls, mirrors. At work, the conference bloomed into the thing we promised it would be. When a keynote canceled 3 days before the event, I found a better one. When a vendor flaked, I had backups. My boss slipped an extra note into my personnel file that said command presence, and I taped the phrase inside my planner where I'd see it every morning. Not to brag, just to remember I hadn't imagined it. Spring unspooled. The boys turned another year older. Jace's shot grew cleaner. Milo's reading finally clicked, and he devoured a fantasy series like Oxygen. Sometimes after games, we get burgers and sit in the parking lot tailgate style, laughing about nothing. My parents learned the specific shape of my yes and my no, when I could drive the boys and when I couldn't, when I could attend, when I would be home with a book, because rest is not an apology. One Sunday, my phone buzzed with a number I hadn't memorized on purpose. Marin, can we talk? She asked. I'm at the park, I said. There's a bench near the fountain. She arrived with sunglasses she didn't remove. We watched a toddler chase an impossible pigeon. For a while we spoke as if narrating a documentary. The weather, the boys' teachers, a neighbor's dog who kept escaping. Finally, she folded her arms like a shield. I felt abandoned, she said. The words came out stiff with dignity and shame. I felt erased, I said gently. Like a wallet with legs, her jaw worked. I didn't know how to stand up, she admitted at last. If someone kept building the steps for me, I know, I said. It was both a mercy and a boundary. I wasn't offering to rebuild. I was acknowledging the map. We agreed on practicalities, pickups, drop-offs, holidays measured in even slices instead of expectations. We did not agree on history. Maybe we never will. Not every story needs both signatures at the bottom to still be over. Which brings me to tonight. The mist has turned to a sliver of rain, and it makes the world look like someone's wiped the day clean. I think about a year of choosing myself without turning my back on the 2 boys who think I orbit them. I do. Without punishing the parents who were learning me in a new tense. Without making my sister into a villain in a story where everyone had a handful of sharp edges and soft spots. I reach for the radio, then leave it off. The quiet isn't a stranger anymore. It fits. I replay the dinner where it cracked, the keys in my pocket, the accusation of selfishness like a string that used to pull me to the ground. I replay the coffee with my mother, the way she placed her palm over mine like setting down a fragile thing. I replay my own voice saying I can't keep doing this, and I realize I didn't mean love. I meant erasure. People say freedom is a door you walk through. I think it's a sentence you finally say out loud. My phone lights up with a picture from Jason grinning, holding a science fair ribbon, Milo photobombing with a gummy bear crown. Beneath it, Aunt Nora, we saved you a slice of victory cake. I text back a heart and a promise to bring chocolate milk. I start the engine. The street lamp flickers one more time and then steadies. I pull out into the soft rain with the kind of certainty you don't announce but carry. I didn't lose a family. I lost a role I should never have been assigned, and I found a better one. I found myself. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss interesting stories.